All right, so let's try sketching this graph. This is an unfamiliar function. I have no idea what that's going to look like. So let's start by putting in our calculator. So I'm going to take my y equals, clear out what's there, x squared, e to the x. Well, I can see down here with my ln, in blue I've got e to the x. So second e to the x. It just gives me the e to the, I need to put in the x. And now I'm going to look at my table of values to help me. So I'm going to start my table at -5 just to get an idea of what we're looking at. And I can see that it's a small value. It looks like it went up a little bit, but then started going down. I go through the point 0, 0, and now it looks like on the right side of the graph, my y values are getting super, super big. So let's look at this. It looks like we're never going negative. And if I think about this, x squared is always positive. E is a number. Let's look at e. So if I go back to my home screen, the value of e, so let's just look at my e to the first. E is a constant, and it's about 2.7. So e to the x, no matter what I raise 2.7 to, positive or negative exponent, is always going to be positive. So e to the x is always greater than 0. So these two values always greater than 0, even if x is negative, which means that makes sense looking back at my table, that these values are never going negative. So setting up my window, again, it looked like we got going pretty big pretty fast. So I'm going to set up my window. Look at that. Even I've jumped already up to over 3,000 at x equals 5. So setting up my window, I'm going to go from -5 to 5. I could count by a half still, that's fine. -10, okay, and I'm going to go up to about 500. So this time I'll count by 50s. And let's look at our graph. Let's look at our graph. All right, so we know that we're super, super close down here. And now it looks like an exponential graph. So it's not a super exciting graph, x squared times e to the x. So let's make a quick sketch. There we go. So we know that our y-intercept, let's look at our table again. Our y-intercept is going to be 0, so we're going through the point 0, 0. So that's the only time that we're getting close to being negative. We are going through 0, 0 in this case. But then we've got our asymptote. So it looked like we went up a little, down, and then we shoot up. So I never actually go negative. So let's try that again. Make it a little bit smoother. So we have our asymptote. Close to the asymptote, we go down and then up. So it's okay for us to touch the asymptote here because plugging in x equals 0 doesn't hurt our equation. So at x equals 0, my y value is going to be 0 squared times e to the 0. Well, that's just the same as 0 times 1, which is 0. So that's okay. We can touch the asymptote there because it is a valid point on our graph.